that's like a childhood dream. If you'd have reversed time and said, 15-year-old AV, getting into metal, getting into black metal. By the way, this band that you missed out on, because I'm not quite of the generation that was second wave black metal. I'm a little bit younger. I'm 36 in a couple of weeks, so I just missed it. I don't know, 5 or 6 years I've missed it. So if you'd have said to me, in X amount of years' time, you'll be on the same record label as Ishan and Emperor, I'd have been like, get fucked.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode 190 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I am kicking off the countdown to episode 200 with a catch-up with my good friend AV of the black metal band Abduction. We spoke all about the response to their last record, Black Blood. We spoke about what the future holds for the band. We spoke about how he has dealt with the increase in attention. And we also spoke about the cultural decline of the United Kingdom, amongst many other topics. It's a great conversation. It's going to be coming your way very shortly. But before we get to that, Tombstone are a duo out of Jakarta, Indonesia, who produce black metal in the vein of Lord Belial, Dawn, Winterland, and others. They have recently put out a record called To the Existence of Light through our friends over at Gutter Prince Cabal. I love it. I believe that the Legion will love it. And that is why I am getting us fired up this week with one of Tombstone's best tracks. This is a song called Guardians of the Land and Sea. You just listened to a track called Guardians of Land and Sea. The band is Tombstone. The album is To the Existence of Light, and it's been put out by our good friends over at Gutter Prince Cabal. A fantastic endeavor. I've, of course, had Nathan Glover of Gutter Prince Cabal on the show, and he'll be back on the show at some point down the road as well. But make sure that you show these guys your love and support. I'll post a link to their Bandcamp in the description to the podcast, and if you head over there and you buy yourself some music, then definitely let them know that it was Old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you. If you are new to the podcast and you like what you hear, make sure you elbow drop the subscribe button on your platform of choice, be that Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Stitcher, or wherever you consume podcasts on. Follow me on social media, and then very critically, make sure that you are supporting my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. Every Monday, Brandon Legion brings you Horrorwolf 666. Every Tuesday, I cast hexes and slay poses on Into the Necrosphere. Every Wednesday, Sensei Mike Hill brings you Everything Went Black. He returns every Thursday with my favorite podcast of the week, Necromaniacs, alongside his co-hosts Mike Scandado and Jeff Kashid. And then every Sunday, the Reverend Carl Haikara brings you the weekly journey into the arcane, the esoteric, and the dark with Solnox. And then, of course, if that's not enough for you, make sure you are listening to our fellow horseman, Cheyenne, frontman for the excellent Trivax and his podcast, Iblis Manifestations, which posts pretty much weekly. And, of course, if you guys are a fan of Trivax and you're fans of Cheyenne and my conversations, of which there have been several on the show, he will be on the podcast again at some point, probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I recorded an in-person with him when I was in Derby as well, not at Reaperfest, actually at the hotel where we were staying, but this is one of the spiciest conversations I've recorded to date, and I'm sure you guys are going to absolutely love it. Speaking of spice, once my conversation with AV is done, don't go anywhere, because I'm going to be reviewing the new Werewolves record, My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me. And right after that, it is time to round up every new track released this week, including a new single by Cannibal Corpse. They'll be rounded up for judgment and held under my intense scrutiny for my weekly news rant, the most notorious segment of the podcast, and frankly, the segment of the show that I probably get the highest amount of response for right now. So I love the support. I thank you for it. And I hope that you are going to enjoy the next 2.5 to 3 hours with me as we welcome back to the podcast my good friend AV of Abduction.
Yeah, so all of the stuff that I bought was actually done because Dave didn't want to do a Zoom interview. And so I was so keen to get him on, and it was like, okay, what do? Do I just
leave it with me, I will buy the stuff.
Pretty much. It's like, we'll figure it out, I'll buy all the shit, and then, I thought if I buy it now, then I can start doing more of these going forward. Like, I'll see how the first one goes.
Yes.
And that one went very, very well. And as I was saying to Ralph, it is different. Like, if you staring someone,
it's totally different
in their beady little eyes.
We spoke about this before, didn't we? On I don't know whether
cheers,
it's
by the way.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you. We spoke about it a couple of times ago about how you were talking about doing it in the future, about doing something live, because it is different and
very different.
It's Zoom has its limitations. So
well, the thing is, especially if you don't know the person, there's that awkwardness, and I actually think it's quicker to get over the awkwardness if you are sitting with somebody face to face, because then it's a little bit like what I say to bands now when I get them on, and I haven't spoken to them before. I say to them, look, just imagine we're two dudes sitting, talking beer, talking shit, and we start realizing we've got stuff in common. That's basically the way to see it. It is harder to get over that when you're doing a Zoom interview than when you're doing a face-to-face.
Yes, I mean that should be the pretext, but it's just that there's more of a barrier, isn't there? That's the thing. No, I get it. That makes sense. Did we start? We've probably started. Right?
We have, mate.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm really happy.
The more times you come on the podcast, the more the surprise start catches up to you.
Yeah, well, it's like it's becoming a regular thing now.
Well, you were in one of my first 10 guests, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
You're also on the list of the first 10 people that I wanted to get on.
I did the first one in the mask and the hood as well, I think.
Yeah, which was fucking cool. So, but there was like a gradual unmasking because you did the full garb. Then you did half garb, and then it was like full unmasked.
Yeah, and you know what? People just seem to know who I am a little bit now. So it doesn't really matter. I don't really care.
Was it like doing the unmasking and people getting to know you? Were you resistant to that in the beginning?
I was. When I started the project, I wanted it to be entirely anonymous. Just no accountability, nothing. I don't want any restrictions on anything, and that seemed like a good way to do it. You know, to keep that. But I've just done. I don't know. People join the dots after a little while. You know, and I've been fortunate enough to have been. I don't know, to put records out and have played a few shows and stuff, then people seem to just know who I am now. Like earlier on, someone was like, "Oh my God, are you that guy?" And I'm like, "How do you know this?" And you know,
were people speculating at first? Like, did you have or did you enjoy total anonymity as AV?
I did enjoy it. Yeah, I think I had pretty much for a couple of years. Yeah. It's not a big deal. I think it's just been like you say, it's been a gradual thing. So, you know, for me at the start, it was very important to take away the human side, and to just for the music to just be something from somewhere else, and that is still very important. But I think actually, to a certain extent, seeing somebody's face, seeing their emotions, their eyebrow shape, all their little micro emotions and stuff are really important. So
well, dude,
it's not been something I've given a lot of thought to. I just kind of gradually got rid of it. But
I mean, you still go on stage in the same club at the same time. I liken it to Mayhem, you know, and I've always liked the idea that latter-day Mayhem, you know, it's actually these like well-dressed, debonair gentlemen on all their photos, and then you see them on stage and they're these complete and utter lunatics. But to me, that distinction is quite cool. It's like you don't have to be fucking riff-raff to be in this, to do this music. Number one, number two, they create this very clear distinction between their persona and their on-stage persona, and between what they're like, you know, off stage. And in a bizarre way, I think that's the best way to overcome that lack of mystery that you have nowadays. It's just natural outgrowth of social media.
That's it. It's trying. I think you've touched on it there, where you want everything that anonymity brings you, but you also we have to do. I mean, we don't have to do podcasts and interviews and things, but we choose to do these things and to build up the profile. And actually, what people want to see is somebody talking. They don't want to see you on Into the Necrosphere talking to some guy in a cloak who doesn't really say much, who is some fucking space demon from another dimension.
That got some good feedback. I like the fact that you were on there with a cloak.
But it runs thin very quickly, you know, and actually, you know, just talking the shit, shooting the shit with you is actually way more interesting. So I'd rather do that and just me, innit? It's just
there's definitely you know, the idea of people buying into people.
Yes,
and I think the way that you promote music nowadays has to be so different to the way that you promoted it like 20, 30 years ago. Like 30 years ago, you know, or 40 years ago actually, if we were talking about bands like Kiss, that anonymity really played into their favor, and the mystery really played into their favor. But I think nowadays it's kind of like, well, we've seen that now. So now we want to gravitate towards people who we actually can develop a personal affinity for, because we like the person we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a valuable asset to the package, you know, and from a sort of psychological perspective, that is definitely, you know, people. It seems to be what people like, and even like there are other bands in the UK. You know, there are our good friends who are playing. I think at the moment actually, the Sun's Journey Through the Night. You know, even him. I know that guy really well. We're actually, I would say we're fairly close friends. He's still keeping it an anonymity thing, but you know, I had a chat with him at the Nottingham show recently on I think it was the last day of their tour. And I said, you know, how are you doing? How are you keeping it up? Is it going all right? And he's like, yeah, it's fucking hard. You know, he's like, yeah, it's fucking difficult. Because, you know, we're playing venues where it's a small scene, and we're not playing venues where we're away in a dressing room we walk in, whatever time we feel like, into a dressing room, nobody ever sees us, and then we walk out on stage as a presented thing. That's not that's not how it is. Like, that really isn't how it is. We are in a venue, probably getting changed at the merch stand, but putting paint on or something. There might be a dressing room, fine, but like you still have to walk through. Those guys today have had to walk through 300 people with all their gear, with all their Son's Journey merch, they're still going to have to do that. And okay, they might get to a level where they don't have to do that, but at the moment that seems to be what it is. So I don't know. It just seems a little bit. Yeah, I think if you can take that so far, and I think I took that far enough, and then actually I just enjoy a conversation on a podcast. I'm not an unreasonable person.
What I loved about the whole Abduction vibe, though, is I remember seeing the music video for the first single you guys put out off of Black Blood, and I was like,
yeah, Colonel's Crown.
There was like a real sense of menace to it, which you got.
Good.
I mean, you have surrounded yourself with dudes in a band. I think that look the part as well. That look badass.
It's very important. Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah.
But so you just had this air of menace, but this like real step up in confidence from stuff that I'd seen you do previously. And I was reflecting on like the first conversations that we had, and you were talking to me about how you made music, and then all of a sudden here comes this band, and it's like, fuck me, this is a massive leap forward for you guys. Not just musically, but just the whole way in which you present yourself and just really evolved.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to set up something this is my new black metal project, this is my new musical project, and here are the black and white pictures of me in my basement or whatever.
Yeah.
Mutilation, fucking any of the French bands, anything that's a black and white cover, really, Dark Frame, whatever. It's quite easy to set it up and put it on Bandcamp and then put a tape out and whatever. Anyone can do that, and everyone should do that. It's really important. But then when it comes to how do you elevate beyond that? It's 2023, it's not 1994 anymore, So I don't know the answers to that. I'm still trying to figure all that out. All of this is just a fucking gigantic experiment. I don't get it right all the time, and that's fine.
So where do you think you haven't gotten it right? Because I would argue differently. I think you have. If it's not been by design, you have really lucked into a very successful path to get to where you are.
I'm very, very happy with everything I've done. I genuinely am. I know a lot of bands would just say that to chirp themselves up, but no, I'm very happy, and I feel like I'm fairly a guy that's fairly full of gratitude for the opportunities I've been given, and I try my best to make the most of them. That's just how I look at it. So if it doesn't quite come off as my grand designs, the dreams in my head, and if it's maybe 90% or 80% of that, then fine. But like, at least I fucking did it, that's how I look at it. Yeah. So I don't really look at it in terms of like a success or failure kind of thing. And I don't think I ever will. I think that's ingrained in it, like it's always been. Like I'm obviously, my direction in life is obviously to make music. It's quite obvious to me that that's the thing. Like I have to do that. I've got day jobs and all the rest of it, but I have to be doing this. Like I go fucking insane if I don't write a new album in 5 minutes, or I don't fucking do that. I don't have that output. We've got the longest period now without any gigs that we've had for quite a while until October, and that alone is like, right, I need to write a new album. I need to fill the time with something that is a creative output. So I don't look at it so much as like a grand project that I then success or fail or I rank it, but I just I don't know. I think I just try and take the most of every opportunity, and sometimes you get the most of every opportunity, and sometimes you don't, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I'm very lucky we're on Candlelight, which is a great label. I'm very lucky I've been on Inferno Profundus, which is a great label. I'm very lucky to have played with all the Reaper bands and be part of helping out Reaper Fest and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was about to say, you're now part of Reaper as an entity as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. A little bit. Not officially.
I was about to say, you're not in the books.
Gary should be here to officiate that, and he's not here. But no, we're just friends. Me and Gary from Reaper are just friends, and quite close friends. We talk like nearly every day, and we're always talking about the next fucking thing we're going to try, with the next project. Oh, we're going to do this tour. He's going to put this show on. I'm going to help with this, whatever. We're always like, trying to big each other up, really. But he's doing amazing. He's fantastic. He should be here.
How nice is it for you to see what he's done from, like, I was friends with him on Facebook before he did his first show.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's been really, really quick, like the ascent to do
it has, and he's a little bit like today at Reaper Fest, he's a little bit annoyed because it hasn't sold out.
Yeah.
You've had 8 sold out shows in a row.
Yeah.
From like, I don't know, 150 cap to Fortress was something like 600 or 700, something like that.
Yeah.
And they've all sold out. And then he's come to Derby and done this big Reaper Fest, and it's not quite sold out. So he's a bit annoyed. He's like, failure.
The thing about it is
man, this is obviously an upward trend, and you're doing okay. Yeah. Like, this isn't a sign that you fucked up or there's a mistake.
And
like,
also,
it's okay. Like,
we're only on day 1 now when we're recording this.
Yes,
so
that's true.
It could very well be that many of
maybe
Ruins of Everest fans come out of the woodwork.
Maybe they all just don't buy tickets in advance. No, it's the festival's done well. I don't want to detract from the whole thing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the crowd downstairs is big.
It's fucking well busy down there.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see it in my hometown. This is my stomping ground. This is my pissing ground. So and he's done amazing. He's done really well. And I've just he's our agent, but we're just friends. And I'll be working with him a bit more in the future with the next Fortress and things like that. But I wish I could tell you all about Fortress next year.
Well, I
really can't, but
I was about to say,
just trust me, it's big.
He was very G14 classified on the names, but obviously he's already shared the venue, and I mean, it's a big step up. 700 cap to about 4,000 cap?
No, 1,800. I think it is. Yeah, it's 1,800. It's still a 3 times increase.
Yeah. Why did I think 4,000? Yeah. Anyway.
I don't know. Maybe it's because he's kind of trying to rival Damnation. Maybe
he's going to.
Something like that.
He's putting a John Scher from Woodstock '99.
He's doing all right, and and he's got a really good team around him, and everyone supports him. And he's doing all the right things, making all the right noises in all the right places with all the right bands.
Yeah,
it'll be a big jump from 600 to 1,800 in the UK in the north.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think the time is now. I think he needs to strike now.
It feels like it's so interesting coming to a show that's not in London and getting a sense of how different the vibe and the scene is.
Yeah.
Like, London has a very, very specific music scene.
I hate it.
And when you go, I can understand why, because I remember being younger and going to shows almost every single day. Or at least 2-3 times a week I used to go, and I would come straight from work, and I wouldn't look like I'm straight off a fucking welfare skip. And it's like, and people would in London will really look at you funny about that.
Yeah.
If you come to over here, maybe it's also a different time, but no one really gives a shit. It's a very there's a much more community feel here.
Yeah.
I think than I've ever seen in London.
I think that's the difference between having a city that is such a concentrated amount of people that they sort of can afford to be choosy and judgmental, whereas anywhere else in the UK it's kind of like, there's people here today. I was chatting to a girl earlier who's come from Ireland, and there's some people that have come from Denmark to come see Ruins of Everest, and they must be close friends or something. I don't know. There's people that have come to this community, like, who are scattered, who have joined in this community. It doesn't feel like that in London. It feels like everyone's already there, so you've got really high stakes. You've got, you have to meet this criteria to be there.
Yeah,
it feels a little bit more like that.
A certain way to qualify. I always thought, especially when I was doing the music writing, I always thought to myself, "Are you fucking idiots?" Like, I'm actually friends with a lot of the people in these venues that you fawn over, but it's. There's definitely it's like a lack of patience that they have with their fellow man over there that is absent from this place.
Yeah, and if I'm honest, I just don't like that city. I don't forget the metal scene for a second. I just hate being in that city. I'm from the Midlands. I'm from the Peak District, really. I'm from the fucking rural green hills and quarries and mills. And that's where I'm from.
So you grew up in the countryside?
Yeah, I mean, I lived 2 minutes from this venue for about 10 years. But I'm from Belper, which is, I've never said this before on the podcast, but from Belper, which is 10 miles away, which is a little mill town. It's almost kind of Winterfilliff territory, like they're all from a bit further into the peaks, but mine's on the edge. But it's, so I'm from there, and I recently moved back there within the last, I don't know, 8 months or something.
What made you decide to move back?
Just children, the choices they have to make. I lived in the city long enough. I know what their future is. And I don't want it to be that. I want it to be something more similar to what I had, which was a lot more open space, a lot more green, a lot less risk, a lot less worry for the parents and everything. So I think we made a wise decision a few months ago.
Well, I mean,
and I'm really fucking happy where I am. So
I've told you, Paige and I moved in 2020 to the countryside, and we're never leaving. So
like where
you understand now is where we're going to live for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's it. And even if you move down the road or whatever, it's not back to the state you were in. Yeah, I mean Derby's interesting. It's not really a city. It's a big town. I think I was saying this earlier to Paige.
A very impressive shopping mall, though.
Nobody in it. No, it's all empty shops. It's probably 50% full, isn't it?
Well,
think about it.
We did have to travel many a weary mile to find a fucking tripod, which I did. That drove me insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a nicer shopping mall than Reading. Reading has the Oracle, and that's a fucking dump.
Oh right, I wouldn't know. I've been to Reading a couple of times, but I don't know. But no, it's. I think it's a technicality that it's a city, basically. It's because I was telling someone this earlier. So because it has a cathedral, it is therefore a city.
Yeah.
But it's a very small town. It's not a city. It's the little sister of Nottingham. That's what we are, really.
Is it prone to the social ills?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
As bad as London nowadays?
Yeah, not as bad as probably the inner outer estates and things like that as London. Not quite as many as that, because again, it's just lots of people in a confined space in London, so all those numbers go up, don't they? Crime rates and things go sky high. But yeah, they're saying social ills. Yeah, definitely.
I was seeing
crime, gang violence, car violence.
I was seeing a thing today actually where they were saying in London, I think knife crime is up year over year by 16%.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah,
it's fucking nuts. People are getting stabbed in Oxford Circus now in the middle of the day.
Yeah,
literally the middle of the day.
Yeah. It's crazy. I actually weirdly followed a little bit of the drill scene.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's funny. And also I'm a teacher, so and also I never said that on the podcast before. So I'm a teacher, so I have to keep up to date a little bit with what the kids are doing.
I'm sure we spoke about you being.
I think we spoke about education, but I am a teacher. Yeah. So.
You're in good company, by the way, because Ralph is a teacher as well.
Yes, I know. Yeah, you were saying.
My mom was a teacher all of her life, and my dad was he was a lecturer at a university, but he was
similar
in the education field.
Yeah. So me and Ralph spoke in the pub last night, and he basically told me what he does. And I'm like, that's pretty much what I do. So close. So
are you the guy I read about who's been protesting the government to bring back the cane?
No, that's my brother.
Dude.
No. But when you work in a city school, you see these problems firsthand.
Yeah.
Literally firsthand. I've come across knives in my classroom and on all sorts of things, and I've been assaulted. I've got in the way of stuff. Things that happen quite a lot. I can't talk about things specifically, but
of course.
But put it this way: if it's shitty in this inner city behaviour, I get the brunt of it. And if it's not the people who are involved, it is the younger brothers of the people who are involved who will then go on to be the same as the older brothers. So which is really tragic.
It's fucking horrific, and it's a...
I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
a complicated topic.
I've wrestled with this many, many times, but it's like when there's this meme that I showed my daughter, and she couldn't fucking believe it. It was like this kid in like old school uniform, like I used to have to wear, bent over, about to get the cane.
Yeah.
And the meme says, "This is because we were raised right." and I showed her.
How do you explain this?
I said, "Do you know how much that happened to your dad when he was at school? Like literally." I actually counted in year 7, I got a hiding 53 times.
Fuck me!
I was
that's like once a week.
Dude, I was very mischievous. I would do fucking moronic things like sit in the teacher's class, and pretend to be and make these snoring sounds, and then the teacher spins around and he's furious, and then I'm looking going. What's going on? And he eventually figured out that it's me. Grabbed me by my collar, like yanked me out of the chair, like marched me down to his office, beat the fucking dog shit out of me. It's like,
yeah, I mean, we didn't have that when I was at school, because I think you're from South Africa, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's perhaps a little bit different.
Well, so my point is they removed corporal punishment from, and I'm not making a case to bring corporal punishment back.
No, make your point.
But what I did see was the immediate switch in discipline when they removed corporal punishment. They removed it when I was in year 11, when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And you could literally see like kids just sort of misbehaving. It's like the corporal punishment, especially for boys, it keeps boys in line. There's no two ways about it. I'm not saying bring it back. What I'm saying is,
sounds like you're arguing.
I witnessed a difference.
Okay.
Also, I got the shit beaten out of me, and I to this day I have not cried myself to sleep about it.
I knew you were going to come on to a really complicated topic. It's complicated, and I don't think that is the only factor.
No, I don't think so.
But you make a valid point. Obviously, our parents, our grandparents, very often didn't get up to this kind of stupid shit that these kids get up to today. So what you're saying makes sense.
Well, even fights, kids nowadays, like when I was young, there was like an assumption if you're a boy, you're going to get into 2-3 fist fights,
couple of scraps
a year at least.
Yeah.
But it was a fist fight, and that was the end of it. Like a lot of guys that I got into major fist fights with, I actually, 3-4 weeks later, you see the guy in the street, and you're like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
But that's the difference, because you fight and it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. That's it. You won, you lost, fine.
Yeah.
And you might get mocked for it for a bit, but then it'll blow over. Yesterday's chip paper or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go.
But it's like, you take an ass kicking or you give an ass kicking, and then it's the end of it. But now it's like knives and...
Yeah. You give someone an ass kicking in school, they get stabbed in the park.
Yeah.
That's it. The guy who got the ass kicking will get his older brothers on you in the park tomorrow or the next day, and you will get stabbed.
Yeah.
You may die. You might bleed out and fucking die because of a pencil or a girl or a fucking a snide comment.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous.
And
absolutely ridiculous.
This is my point that I was making so ineloquently with the corporal punishment. Is I keep thinking about, okay, what led to the best outcomes? What do I see happening now? Like again with the fist fights, right?
Yeah.
If people knew the kind of fist fights I got into nowadays, said, "Oh, it was terrible. How could you do that?" But it's like it was a fist fight and it was over.
Yeah.
We're not going after each other with knives and trying to shoot, and having drive-by shootings past their house and stupid shit like this. So what I don't understand is why did we get from that to where we are right now?
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's the Pandora's box. That's the complicated thing. You can blame lots of things, but I mean, just thinking about my own experience in education. One of my former students, I have a very specific part of education, and I deal with those kids. I don't deal with the mainstream kids. I deal with those kids, the kids that bring knives, the kids that fucking graffiti, the kids that kick the shit out of the kids. One of my kids is in, I don't know if I should say this, but yeah, he's in a local newspaper very recently. Because he was in the bus station, which he may or may not have been in earlier on today.
No.
So last year, Him and a friend of his are now utter scumbags, these kids. I'm sorry, I know I'm a teacher, but they are utter scumbags for this. They went to Derby bus station and harassed this old man just because they were being dicks, just because that's what they do, because they're bored. The old man clapped back with him, like, fucking, clear off, go fuck yourself, whatever you need to do. One of my students, he punched this old guy in the head. He's 83, this guy, I think he was. Something like that, you can check that, but 83. Punched this guy in the head, fell over, died of a brain hemorrhage. So my former student is now in prison. Well, no, he's awaiting sentencing.
Yeah.
But he will be sentenced very soon in the next couple of months. And,
I read something about a guy...
and this is, unfortunately, the future for a lot of... Similar future...
Yeah.
To a lot of children, and a lot of children that I deal with, and I might get shit for this, whatever, but
it's a reasonable conversation to have.
It is a reasonable conversation to have, because it's a fucking issue.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading about a guy, I can't remember what bank he worked for, but it was a guy who was quite senior at a bank, went out to a club in Soho, walked out of the club at like 2 a.m, someone shouts something at him, he doesn't register what it is. Yeah. The guy runs up behind him, hits him behind the back of the head, he falls down, hits his brain hits his head on the pavement, dead.
Yeah.
53 years old.
Yeah.
You're out one, I mean, again, this is central London, it's not like it's the fucking downtown Compton.
Yeah.
Hits his head on the pavement, dead, you're out for the night, and it's...
Yeah.
This is what it comes to. So I think it's a completely reasonable conversation to have. It's not because people need to try and figure out how we prevent this, but why this is happening, because the answers that they're giving right now don't seem to make any sense.
Broadly speaking, there are lots of it's basically all socioeconomic, I think, all the reasons. It's all to do with if you're really shallow, you can blame immigration, but I don't want to fucking do that. That's not cool. Like that's a really easy cop out.
I was about to say it is,
and it doesn't answer any of the actual questions and the underlying factors. So, no, it's a socio-economic thing, it's a class thing, and it is a culture thing, and there's a lot of different elements to it that I am not qualified at all to get into. But there are people who live their lives in a city, and these are the kids that we're talking about. Their families, their aspirations, their idols live in a constant state of terror. Like they literally wake up in fear of getting beaten, by their parents. And I'm not talking about like random cases. I'm talking about thousands and thousands of families in the UK at any one time. There are hundreds of thousands probably of those people. What are they going to do? They're going to choose a life of risk, a life of crime. They're going to choose to take more risks. They're going to choose to eat rather than not eat, whatever the cost. They're going to choose to, then maybe you can say they're not raised right. You can say they're not funded by the government right. You can say their parents didn't do enough in education. You can blame lots of things, but I don't think that solves anything. What you have to look at is go, well, there is a fucking epidemic of social shit here, and you have to tackle those things individually. You have to. You can't just go, oh, it's the blacks, it's the Pakistanis, it's the Roma, it's the
well, I mean,
that's really fucking dumb.
I think again, like if you scratch under the surface, you discover that if you want to talk about immigration, for example, the vast majority of Muslim immigrants are highly socially conservative.
Yes.
Highly.
Yeah.
So that doesn't that immediately that argument.
Yeah. So it's just exactly. Yeah. And each one of those ethnic groups, once you like delve a little bit deeper, it's like actually there's an obvious reason for them coming here, or there's an obvious reason, and you would do the same. So. So they're basically the racist argument. I just don't buy. It's bullshit. It's a socio-economic factor and it's a political factor, and it gets, the more you look at it, the bigger it gets, and you kind of go, fucking hell, I don't even know where to start with this.
Well, you also find places like Dubai, where the vast majority of the people that live in Dubai are immigrants. But
they're all rich immigrants.
They're affluent. I see. My view has always been I subscribe to the Thomas Sowell way of thinking, where he says everyone responds to incentive. So if the incentive is there for you to get away with crime, you're going to keep committing crime.
Of course.
And I think unfortunately that's the problem in this.
Yeah, and that is, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Like if you've got a kid who's in inner city Derby, who doesn't attend school very much. There's all sorts of reasons for that, because a parent don't give a shit and whatever. You didn't have the good parenting you had, or I had. Go if you like, whatever. I don't give a shit. I want to get drunk. That's the parental situation, right? Or whatever. They don't do well in school. They leave school with nothing. What are their options? Hang out with these boys at the park that are making £500-600 a day? A day? Or go and work in Primark?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the incentive in that? You tell me what the incentive in that situation is.
Yeah, 100%.
The incentive is fucking sell cocaine, sell weed. That's the incentive. Obviously it is. I would probably do the same in that position. I was never in that position, unfortunately enough, but lots of people are. So lots of people have to make that choice because based on that incentive. So, yeah. So it's, but that's one example of one child in one scenario, and it's an entire group of. Not even ethnic group, multi-ethnic group of different social classes that are in similar, different levels of scenario.
As a immigrant to this land myself, there is so much opportunity in this country, and the one thing that I've said to Paige so many times, it's like where my sympathy runs dry very, very quickly. Is I came here with £500, literally £500 in my wallet. That was the only money that I had.
Yes, I've heard you say, yeah.
I spent 3 months of my life sleeping on my arm because I didn't have a fucking money for a pillow. I had enough money to get me to work. I had enough money for a 1.99p meal from Sainsbury's, one bread to last me the week, and a bottle of Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I entertained myself by going to HMV and listening to music on the headphones, on playing games on like the Game Pods there, or sitting in W.H. Smith reading books. I read the whole of the Dirt that way. But
that's fantastic. Yeah.
But the thing about it is, if you can find some, like if you're a British youngster, for example, you can take an apprenticeship. Like right now, there's a massive lack of people doing plumbing, electricians, being builders.
There is.
Take an apprenticeship.
But you have at some point been given the tools to make those decisions to look after yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
The kids I'm talking about haven't got any fucking clue.
Yeah.
They haven't, and that may well be the problem. And again, it's like you can say, well, okay, it's the parents' fault, or it's the society's fault.
I was about to say,
or the government doesn't give enough money, or the government doesn't give them too much money, whatever it is. But that's the scenario.
Yeah.
And I don't like.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was in that situation, I would do something probably similar to what you did. I'd be like, W.H. Smith, McDonald's, KFC, what do they throw out? I'll eat that. I would be resourceful.
I wasn't quite that desperate. But
but I would be trying to think outside the box and trying to think about how you can then, and looking, what you did was look to the future. What can I do next?
Yeah.
How can I get this better? How can I improve it? How can I exponentially increase this?
Yeah.
Okay, at some point you have done. At some point you have done. Yeah. So, but like, these are kids that don't know the fucking ABCs. They don't know how to read.
Yeah.
The ones, and again, I'm just talking about random kids here, but like, like, I'm not just talking about random kids. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of kids in the UK, and this is from a teacher point of view.
There's definitely a generational problem.
Yes.
As well. I mean, you kind of alluded to it.
Yes.
Right? There's absolutely a generational issue, and that the scary thing is, you think to yourself, okay, if the previous generation birthed such a legion of fuck-ups, can you just imagine what the next generation
where does it go? Again, look into the future. Yeah. There we go. But no, it's... I don't know what the answer is. It's not for me to fix it, really. No. I do my thing in education. That's the best I can do in my life. That's the best I can do.
Well, Ralph and I
trust me,
that.
I do the best I can do.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I want to play I want to escape from all that shit.
Yeah.
I want to play heavy metal. I want to play extreme metal. I want it to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I want it to feel somewhere else, which is really what we're all after.
Yeah.
Really. You put your headphones in and put the Amenta on or whatever, and you don't want to be at work.
Yeah.
You don't want to think about the bills.
No.
Nobody's thinking about the bills while they listen to Cannibal Corpse. You know what I mean? Or fucking Woods in the Throne, whatever it is.
Yeah. Which is the thing about music, and why I've said before, I think it is better for music to stay reasonably apolitical.
Yes.
There's like bands like Napalm Death and stuff, but the stuff
Yes.
we gravitate to is things where there's a sense of a shared human experience.
Yes.
Because that's the stuff you gravitate towards. That's the stuff that you remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was young. You having problems with a bully at school. I've got vulgar display of power blasting in the room, and I've got regular people live in a hole. Like all those.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you're young, especially, that should really mean something.
Of course it does. Of course, it's like the Bible at that point. For previous generations, it would have been
close
God.
to my kind because they understand what goes in my mind. I mean, that is the sort of shit that gets
Walk
you.
on home, boy. Fuck you.
That's the stuff that gets you through the day.
I'm in my bedroom, but fuck off. Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And it should stay. It should stay as an escapism from everything. And that within that there is a spectrum. Obviously, there are bands that are we are about this and we are about this. Either side, fine, that's okay as well. Like, because it's free speech.
Yeah,
it's art. It shouldn't be fucking censored. But yeah, I think most people are just looking for that.
Well, even if you take a band,
escape.
Even if you take a band that's reasonably political, like Napalm Death, I mean, the songs that people love the most are the songs that, again, kind of go to that layer below where, like you take Fear and Sinister Despair, Plague Rages, that's the song that most people would ask. That's the song people remember from that record. But that's a very human song. It's a song about just experiencing turmoil. So exactly the stuff we were talking about right now. Plague rages in all our hearts. It's the same. It's the same thing.
We've all got our own shit to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. Now, how has things changed for Abduction since Black Blood came out? Changing gears, swerving. Because we literally, like, I think we
that was the shittest segue I've seen you do, Jack.
we went from like black metal, Reaper Fest, the ills of society. Right,
I'll get my cup. Yeah, no, it's all about progression.
Yeah.
What was the question? How has it changed?
How have things changed for Abduction since Black Blood came out? Because so much more, at least for me, having been a fan of the previous stuff that you did, so much more energy behind that record.
Yeah.
Positivity from everybody in the media, everybody on podcasts. You were on Lamb Goat, which I looked at and I said, you should have been saying to them, it's not quite as great as being on Into the Necrosphere. But
it wasn't a podcast, it was just a top 10. Yeah. So how has it changed? We're on the fucking Emperor's fucking record label now, man. We're on Emperor's record label.
That was when I saw you sign the Candlelight.
In itself, like that is for the child in me. And I think I'm pretty much sure I said the same thing before. But that's like a childhood dream. If you'd have reversed time and said, 15-year-old AV. Getting into metal, getting into black metal. By the way, this band that you missed out on, because I'm not quite of the generation that was second wave black metal. I'm a little bit younger. I'm 36 in a couple of weeks, so I just missed it. I don't know, 5 or 6 years I've missed it. So if you'd have said to me, in X amount of years' time, you'll be on the same record label as Ishan and Emperor, I'd have been like, get fucked. Get fucked. I just play whatever, man. Like, and I've only ever done that. I've only ever done just okay, it's great. I know how to put a show on and I know how to book a gig and the rest of it. But it's only ever been about fun. It's only ever been about something I have to do. So it's never been like, oh, let's climb this ladder. Let's get to Emperor's level.
Yeah,
there's
no like
never like that.
meetings like this.
No, not at all. And I don't think it ever will be like that. We make a little bit of a plan for the next year or the next record or whatever, and I go, well, where do I want to go next? That's the thing. What do I want to do next? What do I want to do next? But if the 15-year-old in me would never have had the foresight to see that. So that's how things have changed. So it's gone from being me in my bedroom, living room, whatever, recording stuff by myself, and actually going, Jesus, like people fucking enjoy this, people are buying tapes from me, or they're buying t-shirts, or they're whatever, like that's fucking amazing. It's gone from that to being, okay, how do we sorting out some shows with Emperor. How do we, you've just done a tour, UK tour with Bowles there. What's next? We're going to Europe. All these kind of conversations, these bigger conversations. That's the difference.
And I mean, when we first spoke, Abduction was very much like it was a solo project for intensive
You have
purposes.
been there from the start, my friend.
Yeah.
It was
Solo project for all intents and purposes. You surrounded yourself with these dudes now that are playing with you.
Yeah.
Is it becoming more of a band thing? Is there still the
a little bit
singular aspect of the band?
No. The new album is basically all written and demoed. It will never be shared. Because it's got me playing drums, which is terrible. But it's really rough, But that's as these things go. But no, the other guys, Jack and Alex will at least will be, and Adam, who's the drummer. Adam played the drums on the previous album. And he has done before on a half of Crown of Curses. But basically, all the guys will be involved with the recording of the next one, which is a new thing for me.
Yeah.
So I've written all the parts. I'm showing them all the parts. They're learning the parts. We have August is basically just rehearsals, and then we're gonna choose a studio. We're talking with some fairly big studios about.
I was just about to say, is there going to be a change in studio?
Yeah, there will be. Candlelight are keen on us stepping it up, and I am keen to step it up. So. There will be. It will still be Abduction. Obviously, it's not going to be. It's not going to be like a mainstream record. But we'll probably end up flying to another country to do a recording with a producer in another country. I can't say any more than that.
So you decided on the producer?
We haven't decided. No, we haven't decided. But we're in talks with a couple, and
You can tell me all.
I can't. I'll tell you off air.
Yeah. we stopped the
But it's not confirmed yet. But it's just the name of the conversation. But it will likely happen. But yeah.
Tiesto, I imagine.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. It was Sub Focus. It was a drum and bass album.
Is there a we were talking about signing to Candlelight Records. Is there something that you would still see as unbelievable, but that you would want to aim for as a band right now, as an achievement?
You mean in the future? Unbelievable would be purely because I don't have the time. But like a 30-day tour around Europe with someone big like Watain or someone like that. Main support for something like that. That would be the thing. That's not what I'm aiming for now, but that is, that would be. And I'm actually not in a position to do that now. If they came tomorrow and said, "Do you want to do 30 days in Europe?" I'm sorry, I can't. But that would be, so the unobtainable, but kind of logical at some point. Next step, something like that.
But what we were talking about earlier before we.
The US. Sorry, the US.
You guys
need to play the US.
Yeah. What's your support like in the US?
Pretty good, I think. I don't know what the Candlelight numbers are in the US, but I know it's available out there. I actually don't know what the reporting is or anything like that. But before that, we had a good hookup with a small record label out there for a few years. He's disappeared now, but we always had a good standing there. So
who's the label?
Appalachian Noise.
Okay.
There's a guy called Josh.
Yeah.
Josh, who was a huge supporter of Abduction from the very start. I sent him a few copies. I sent him 4 or 5 copies of the first album, and then the second album was a few more, and things like that. And so, but he was one guy doing a lot of things, and he's not doing it anymore. So I don't know where he's gone. He's disappeared. But we've talked about shows in the US, but there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of fees, commission, customs, all that shit. So it might happen maybe on the next run. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But at the minute it's a bit of a pipe dream. So the US. If I can tour the US, I'll be like, okay.
Well, out of interest,
maybe I'll sit down.
Who would be a band that you would like to tour, or that you think would be a great fit for Abduction? If you went to the US.
Yeah, that's a good question. Lamp of Murmur would be the obvious one. because that's reasonably obtainable. Like we're friends with Lamp of Murmur, as secret as they are. We played that show in the UK exclusive show in London with him.
Yeah.
And I know the guy fairly well personally. I can't tell you who he is, obviously, but I can tell you that he's not from the US. That'll upset your listeners, because everything in the internet says he's US, but he's not from the US.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You're wrong, internet. That's it, with good authority too.
Yeah.
He's definitely not from the US. We flew him into London for the London show, and we didn't fly him from the fucking US. Put it that.
Yeah.
He came from home. So, anyway, so that would be a good one. That'd be an easy, like maybe co-headliner, or maybe we share. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of draw they are in the US.
I think they're pretty hot shit in a minute. I think, but club shows. 300 to 500, I think it would sell out.
You know what I was thinking about as we were talking about it. Black Braid would be a good match.
Yeah. Black Braid would be good. I can tell you now, Black Braid will be coming to the UK at some point soon. But I can't tell you any more than that.
I had him on the podcast.
I'm not saying any more than that.
Yeah.
Not with us, not with Abduction, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I had John on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah. I haven't listened yet, but yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, by the time we're recording this, it's not been on.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure when I'll do this episode, but in terms of real time, it'll be on this coming Tuesday.
Yeah. Do what you need to do, man.
Very, very, very nice guy. I consciously didn't talk to him very much about his heritage, because I think it's very trite to go down that.
It's a little bit low-hanging fruit, isn't it?
It's not just low-hanging fruit. It's just, like I said, I just think it's trite. Like the guy, I've told you before, my view is always, my approach to any conversation is, there's stuff people want to talk about.
Yes.
All you need to do as a host or as an interviewer is you just would steer them down whatever's on their mind, whatever they want to get off their chest, whatever they want to talk about, they'll talk about.
Yeah.
Just move them in that direction.
Yeah.
And he didn't bring it up. If he had brought it up, we would have spoken about it. But for me, I'm not fucking Despot magazine or.
So what did you talk about?
We spoke a lot about his thoughts and a lot of the kind of meaning behind a lot of the songs on the record.
Okay.
Because a lot of it's very deep. A lot of it's
I get that impression.
Dealing with losing people, losing loved ones, and things like that. We spoke a lot about that. We spoke a lot about how things have kind of changed for Black Braid as a band, since they got really popular. We did talk a bit about the fucking ridiculousness of being referred to as an industry plant, kind of like independent band. His wife, does most of the social media and almost everything to push them. They do all of their own design, industry plant.
No, that's I'm glad you mentioned that, because I hear things, I hear rumours, and but I know that his wife's involved in PR or whatever, but Well, he's just a guy. It's literally like if I made a record and my wife is, that would be sound like.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not that dissimilar to what I'm doing. It's just have a wife.
So Katie does his PR, but I mean Katie isn't with Season of Mist anymore.
Right.
So she does her own thing.
Oh, is that his wife?
No.
Right, okay.
Katie used to be the PR person for Season of Mist.
Yeah, I know Katie.
So she's got her own PR company right now.
Okay.
And she does PR for Black Braid. But that's what I said to him. It's like the ridiculousness of this is you have a capable publicist, and so because of that, all of a sudden you're an industry plant.
Yes, yeah. Well, no, people jump to those conclusions. I don't think people who, largely the people who consume records and consume this fucking weird media that we all do. I don't think largely they understand how it works.
No.
And that's okay. Like I only understand because I'm a little bit of a part of it, a little bit. That's fine. But it's very difficult to start a band from scratch and then gain a social media presence and then gain the gigs and then gain if you had in any way something in-house that meant that you therefore don't have to do a little bit of that legwork. I mean, he's still writing, recording, he's still doing everything that a band would do. He's still a valid fucking artist,
Well, I mean, you know,
then you would do that. You would do that, absolutely.
He definitely benefited from, you know, him coming from a different background to most.
Yeah.
Because that's an interesting story. Like we were talking earlier about, you know, people gravitating towards people and characters.
Yes.
It's an interesting. It is an interesting story to tell, but it's not his decision to tell the story. It's not his decision to have Decibel. I don't remember. Was it Decibel magazine or am I throwing around libelous claims here? A magazine, you know, have dressed up.
Undisclosed magazine.
Yeah, have an undisclosed media source dressing him up in, like, you know, all sorts of Native American garb and stuff like that. And I'm really exploiting it. And it seems like a lot of it, and this is consciously again why I didn't talk to him about it. A lot of folks have seemed to want to really kind of make it all about how, you know, he's making
that's the PR thing, isn't it? That's like when you have, you know, they want an angle, they want to go with that, and you know they've had it in a little bit with, you know, with me with Black Blood and with other stuff before, like, you know, they're like, oh, what's your angle? I'm like, I don't really fucking know, like, it just
no. You don't have to have an angle.
They're like, the music should speak for itself, like it's not gimmicky, so. You know, if we were someone who dressed up in World War II regalia, that would be the angle.
Yeah.
But it would ultimately be substanceless. Like, but no, he's obviously got some heritage. He's got it built into his thing. I don't even listen to him that much, to be honest. I've heard him before, but I haven't even.
But I mean, you know, that's my point around what I spoke to him about. That's his personal business.
Yeah, exactly.
If he wants to talk about it, he can talk about it.
Exactly.
I'm not bringing it up if he doesn't want to talk about it.
No, fair enough.
It's like if somebody. You know, if somebody wanted to talk to me about something personal to me, I'd talk about it if they brought it up. But
if it was appropriate to talk about, that's the thing. But fair play to him.
Good band for you guys to be out there with. That
was your point. Yes, yeah. So, absolutely, we support Black Brave across the US. Absolutely, 100%. Let's do it.
Well, there we go. That tour is booked.
Let's do it. I saw it tomorrow.
And as far as the new album's concerned, you said demoed. What
so it's all
in terms of.
Sorry, I keep touching the mic. It is all recorded. It is all written. I mean, like, I spoke to Candlelight literally yesterday, actually. So it's a good time. Good time to do this. Timeline, we're not looking at early next year, we're looking mid next year.
Mid next year? Yeah. In terms of release or recording?
Yeah, but because of vinyl pressing times, really. Like, I mean, I could record it next month, and it, you know, historically, with smaller labels and tapes and CDs, I could record it next month and it'd be out the month after, you know. That's how fast things can move. But with these slightly bigger labels, this is you know, they actually have a monopoly on vinyl pressings as well, you know, because you're a vinyl pressing plant and Universal Records, or a division of, which is what Candlelight is, comes to you and goes, I want 3,000 of these. You put the 200 copies, the 300 copy orders that you have, you put them to the side and do the 3,000 orders.
Yeah, of course.
So they have a bit of a monopoly on that. But yeah, no, they're talking about. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a release date, but it'll be May, June, something like that next year.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing with the vinyl is very interesting. Two bands who I'll mention to you offline. Yeah. They had 9 to 12 month wait times on their vinyls.
That's what it can be. Were they smaller? Are they smaller labels?
They were smaller labels.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Right. That's it. So this is like a best case scenario. Yeah. Is what I'm talking about. Like, that's one of the benefits of being with someone like, you know, not a major label, but a division of a major label.
Yeah. Is vinyl where you guys, in terms of at least revenue from music sales, is that where you see most of your revenue from?
Personally, no, merch, t-shirts. Yeah, vinyl as well, but that's part of that. But no, t-shirts make the most money, of course they do. Yeah.
And in kind of the, you know, the scene that we're in, the you know, not necessarily Brixton Academy level.
Yeah.
How pervasive is merch cuts in the black metal scene in the UK?
Merch cut, as in venue merch cuts.
Venues taking
non-existent. As far as I know, in the UK, it's non-existent.
Yeah.
We had this conversation with on the Bolzer tour because. So when we played with Bolzer earlier this year, they were really fucking sound, really nice guys, and we had a great time with them. But they'd just come off tour with Watain, and on a nightliner, like with a trailer and all the way around Europe and blah blah blah. And they had a number of shows where they turned up and the venue was like, 20%. Every T-shirt, every fucking patch, every fucking CD, every LP, 20%. And they were like, fuck you. So they set up. It was on their Instagram and stuff. They set up like a little store in the trailer from the nightliner, or wherever the venue was available, round the corner. They're like, no, we're not part of you. We're doing a separate shop.
Igor sold their merch outside the roundhouse, like bootleggers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just got to pay the bootleggers or something. Yeah. So I mean, there's ways around it. I have never. I think I'm fairly well travelled in the UK and the scene in the UK. I might be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, no one does that in the UK. Not at the level not in the black metal scene. Maybe the O2s, maybe. I don't know. But no, and so also obviously they came off that tour and they were like, are these venues like this? And I was like, fuck no.
I spoke to Christian
from out of order
from Necrosphere about that. He got around it by climbing out, I think if memory serves me correctly, the bathroom window of one of the venues, basically running off with the money.
Or just to not pay them.
Basically, not paying them instead.
That's fantastic.
But it is fucking brilliant.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. To me, it's the most extortionate thing on the face of the earth.
It's bullshit.
I'm a free market man, but I mean that's the fucking mafia telling you, you have to pay us protection money.
Yes, it is protection money. That's what it is. It's literally the same as. No, it's out of order, and it shouldn't happen in the UK. If it does happen, I'm not aware of it, but I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. But we fucking see you.
Yeah.
We fucking see you, venues. And bands will stop doing it. They'll stop playing. They'll stop selling merch.
And effectively, immediately, you're announcing Reaper Fest will start doing 25% merch cuts.
Oh, but by the way, Fortress 2024 is 25% merch cut. No, none of that shit happens in anything I'm involved in. I would never play that show.
No, I
wouldn't get booked for that show. If I found out it was a thing, I would fucking set up a shop outside.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
That's not how you treat shit. Like, you're already getting, like, just from a business perspective, it's, you're selling tickets, you're selling beer, there's money exchanging hands, there's people involved in the risk of either thing. That is already, like, we're all building shit up after COVID and whatever, blah, blah, blah. You don't get to take my fucking T-shirt money.
No. Well, this is the thing. It's the
I don't make any money as it is. You don't get to fucking take the food from my child's mouth, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The arrangement has always been, we get, the band gets, punters to the venue. Venue is supplied by the venue owner, and they make money off the booze.
Money on booze, yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
Maybe they have a cut of the entrance fee or whatever is arranged. There are some weird deals that go on. That's sound. What you don't get to do is a band turns up and then go, every shirt you sell, I want £5 or £6. No, fuck off.
I would do the same. I would say you're absolutely welcome to that if I take 20% of the bar.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end, we'll measure whose dick is biggest.
Yeah, if this is a shared endeavour, I'll take 20%.
That's
for me, I saw that for you.
Yeah, I saw that, and I think somebody said that recently, and I saw that. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You can just have 20% in the bar.
Yeah.
I'll take 20% in the bar.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Brother, thank you so much. What a blast catching up finally in person.
In person, man. Look, you're a real. Look, you're here. You're skin and flesh and bone. So am I.
Well, you know what the crazy thing is. This is I was saying to her, first metal show I've been to since the pandemic.
Is it?
Yeah, because I went to see Prodigy last year, but I didn't really go to.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then shamefully, you're going to be fucking horrified by this. I didn't go of my own volition.
Yeah.
Last week I went to the Newbury races, and I had to stick around for Tom Jones.
Yeah, you stopped recording now, haven't you?
I don't give a shit. I'll tell you what, I don't actually think Tom Jones was that bad.
No, I'm joking.
The dude's 83 years old.
This guy's a legend. He's
a
legend. I'm not a fan, but he's a legend. Yeah. He's an undisputable legend.
Yeah. I was expecting the worst. He did a couple of Leonard Cohen covers.
How was his voice? Is it? Because he's quite old, so is it? Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, good.
And he was really like engaging with the audience and stuff like that. I thought to myself, you in a parking lot in Newbury, and you seem happy as I can be about the show that you're doing in front of these fucking losers.
Yeah,
because,
his Zimmer frames at the side of the stage.
Well, dude, I mean, I don't know how many 83-year-olds I know of. My parents aren't anywhere near 83. I can't see them being on stage doing that.
I will be at least making this music. I don't know about performing it live until I fucking croak it.
Yeah?
100%.
Yeah.
Not a fucking prayer of anything else.
Yeah.
100%. I don't know if I'll be on 83 fucking, with the mask and I don't know about that, but I can't see that far ahead. I can't see I can't see more than 12 months ahead. But I will absolutely be doing this shit.
As you get older, have you felt like shows take more of a toll on you?
No.
It becomes easier.
No, it becomes more of a purpose.
Yeah.
And I direct my attention and my fitness and my everything towards it, and it's absolutely what I have to do.
Yeah.
It's more. I used to do it for fun, for years and years and years, in all loads of bands, and I'd just be chaotic, and I get pissed all the time, and sometimes I play shows, but I knew it was what I wanted to do. Now, it's absolutely. I am fucking laser sighted on that, doing that. So it will never be a burden.
That match fitness, mate, so important.
And I'm not even that fit, but that is what I do.
Yeah. No, Jason from Psychroptic, he coined that, and I was like, that is the perfect way to describe it, being match fit, because
match fit, yeah.
If you're on that stage, those lights are going,
and there's more reason to, because we're playing a little bit bigger shows now, and people are coming to see it. Like, if people got into Abduction 3 or 4 years ago, and oh great, I can't wait to go see him. I'll go see them in 2024. And suddenly I am fat, out of breath,
coming on stage, with the pictures
I couldn't live with myself. I would know.
Yeah.
I would know that I was doing a shit job.
Yeah.
So like before anybody else knew, I would fucking know.
Yeah.
And I would never let it get to that. I might be too pissed to play, but that's a different story. but I'll never be too unfit. Where it gets to the point where I literally can't breathe, halfway through a set or anything. I never get to that.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely what I have to do. I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah. Well, that's why people gravitate towards a band. It's why the band gets bigger and bigger. People gravitate towards authenticity, and that's a very critical thing. And if you're authentic on stage and you're presenting them with a authentic experience, they love that.
Yeah. I think people see that.
I'm like that. I've said to you before, I cannot stand bands where it feels like I'm at a rehearsal and there's giggling in between songs and they're talking about, this song is dedicated to this mate of mine, and then they joke with each other and they turn around and talk amongst themselves and say, just like, no. I want to see a show. I want to be absorbed into something that takes me away from all the stuff I am annoyed about in my daily life.
That's it. And you know what? The perfect thing was when we did the tour with Bolzer. That's our first proper tour. I've done other stuff with other bands, but a few of us have. But it's the first Abduction tour where you wake up in the morning in whatever city you're in. The only goal for the day is those 45 minutes. That's it. Now, you got to get set up and you got to drive, whatever, blah 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 blah. But the only goal is to make sure those 45 minutes are good. Okay, sound. I'll do that forever. That's fantastic. Why on earth you would fuck that up?
Yeah.
I do not understand. Okay, by accident you might occasionally get a bit too pissed or whatever. But I'm not speaking from experience. apart from at the moment. But I'm not playing today.
Yeah.
But why you would fuck that up? It's just 45 minutes of your life.
Yeah.
Fucking sort your shit out, man.
Yeah.
Have a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Drink some water.
Yeah.
Eat some fucking McDonald's or whatever it is you need.
Yeah, whatever it is you need to get
you got all the hours in the day beforehand to get that sorted for those 45 minutes, so you better fucking turn up.
That's the good thing about, in my view, about there being more bands now. You get like Nurgle and these fucking idiots complaining about how there's too many bands, but more bands mean more competition. So it means either the dross gets pushed to the side, and the guys that are, and it's true of a lot of the old guard as well, which is why I think they complain about it so much, because you have these hungrier, younger lions coming up.
Exactly.
And they're pushing and pushing and pushing, making sure every single show. Like if you see the photos and the video of Panzerfaust on stage nowadays, it's like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
This is like elite level performance.
Because they turned up. They went, this is what we're doing today.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. Like, in the Boulder tour, there'd be a support band. Do I want as much as I love and I support the scene, do I want a support band? or Bolzer to be better than us in the middle?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I want to be the fucking best.
Yeah.
So, what does it take? Okay, it takes eating well, a little bit better.
Yeah.
Having a coffee before having a water. It's not fucking rocket science.
Laying off the
Turn up.
in the needle before you
don't get smacked up before you play.
Yeah,
exactly. So like, if you turn up and you fucking then see you later. But you obviously don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're not involved.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and then you don't have any right to complain about too many bands.
No.
It's like you have not delivered what people are, what people want to see.
They've paid to see.
Yeah.
They've paid to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, you might be, maybe they paid to see bowls, they're not you, they don't know who you are. But a lot of people have paid to see us too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fucking turn up to them and be like, oh, sorry,
think
I got fucking, I'm stumbling about.
Think of all the legends that were born, not just in black metal, across the board of bands supporting supporting a headliner that was completely different to what they were. System of a Down, for example, a fucking terrible band, but they had Dillinger Escape Plan supporting them.
Yes, they did.
The most insane.
I saw that tour.
I'm about to say the most insane combination you can imagine.
Yeah.
But I mean, they literally say, like, the people hated us. We didn't give a fuck. We just did. We just pushed as hard as we can to put on the best show possible to make sure that if there's 5 people in that crowd, they go, wow, they're going to come back and see us next time.
And that's the thing about being a support band. Like, you have to fucking turn up. Everyone's going to see the headliner regardless, because they've paid to see the headliner.
Yeah.
They've paid to see Bolter, or they've paid to see Mayhem, or whoever it is you're touring with. But like, you've got something to prove as a support.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very important that you turn up.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right, man. We will do this again at some point soon.
We will. There's no rush. I've been on here a few times. But it's all good. It's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely. I'm so glad we finally got to meet each other.
Yeah, I'm glad you came to my city,
To the mean streets.
Yeah, the mean streets of Barbados.
So, well, I'm knuckled up today, just in case.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That was Plutonian Gate by Abduction off their new album Black Blood. It's available right now on Candlelight Records. Came out last year. Is an alumni of the Into the Necrosphere Top 30 of 2023. So you know that if you have not yet checked it out, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Head over to their Bandcamp, buy yourself some music, and let AV and the gang know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you. A big thank you to him for his time. It's almost certainly not his last appearance on the show, and also a big thank you to my friend Gary at Reaper Entertainment for taking such good care of Paige and I during the festival and allowing us to film these interviews. There's still a couple coming your way over the coming weeks, and this was almost certainly one of my very favorites. Right now I want to talk about some new music, the new Werewolves album in particular, My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me. It's available on Prosthetic Records, released this past Friday, August the 11th, and it is of course the fourth in the Werewolves canon. given the fact that they've also been around now for 4 years, which officially makes them the most productive band producing elite of the elite extreme music, without a shadow of a doubt. And I mean, elite of the elite is the best way to describe them, because pretty much since the very beginning of their career, every single thing they've put out has been a minimum 9 out of 10 release, in my opinion. Now, one of the things that I have found interesting in reading some of the reviews of My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me, a lot has been said about the band's love of speed and blasting. Blabbermouth, I believe, called them technical death metal, which I think, if you as a reviewer listened to the album maybe once, and while you were doing so, you were jerking off, watching porno, texting your mates, whatever, you were completely and utterly distracted, you may well have fallen into the trap of just writing this off as a technical death metal band. And frankly, I think that's doing them a disservice, because whether the Werewolves men care to admit it or not, having now lived with these songs for quite a few months myself, there is definitely a level of sophistication creeping into their songwriting, which I am absolutely on board for. Now, to define what I mean by that, I'm going to take you back to the first Werewolves record, and the third track on that album has always been my standout song. The song is called Dog Knotted. It has this slightly melodic black metal influenced bridge right before, actually during the chorus, and it really raises that song to something that is just absolutely sensational. And whenever I think of the band, that's one of the first songs that always comes to mind. They have increasingly started to add some of those black metal elements to what they do. I think where that was most evident was on Harvest of the Skulls, which was on last year's record, From the Cave to the Grave. They also put it on that death metal EP, which was great. But this was really a great example of how they managed to combine that aggression, combine that extremity that the band is known for, with something that's a bit more melodic and something that's a bit more atmospheric, but done so in exactly the right way. There's nothing nice about it. There's nothing sweet. You can't walk around whistling the tune. It's melodic and yet still incredibly menacing. And if you like that element of the band, you are in for an absolute treat, because it is all over My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me. The album starts off with chaotic blasting. I think the first 2 tracks, Under the Ground and My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me, almost have a slightly grindcore kind of feel to me. And by grindcore, I mean like the first Terrorizer record. There's that level of unhinged insanity that greets you on those first 2 songs. And then on track 3, Bring Me to the Kill, is when we kind of get the first taste of some of that black metal influence. We also get an almost Angel Corpse type break right towards the end of the song, which to me is just fantastic. We then have Brace for Impact, which kind of follows a similar route, and From Destroyer of Worlds, track 5, which is kind of like the evolution of Harvest of the Skulls. It's slow, it's brooding, it's dark, it's really menacing, and it builds up to this crazy climax, which is just fantastic. From that song, I personally think Werewolves present you with the 5 best tracks they've ever recorded. Every single element of the band that you've come to love is wrapped up in songs like Neanderhal, I Hate Therefore I Am, I knew nothing then and I know less now. And then it ends off with the most belligerent, violent, memorable thing ever, Do Not Hold Me Back, which I personally think it makes a strong case for being one of the very best songs I've heard all year. It helps, I think, that Every Man is absolutely at the top of their game. Sam Bean's vocals sound ridiculous. David Haley, the drummer, sounds like a man possessed, as he always does. I mean, again, I've said this many times before, but one of my favorite drummers. And then Matt Wilcock, is just absolutely top tier as far as metal guitaring is concerned. He can be technical, but he also really has an understanding of groove. He has an understanding of melody. And I think that he has a brilliant way of combining all of his influences into something that is uniquely his own, which is the mark of all great musicians. This album is an absolute 10 out of 10, top-notch release. If you are into extreme music of any shape, any color, any variety, you owe it to yourself to listen to this. Like I said, it's out on Prosthetic Records right now, and I mentioned the song just a second ago. I'm going to play it for you right now. This is Do Not Hold Me Back.
You're not mine, we're not connected. I deny you, none of you get my crown. May your children all fuck up and die. I leave you
Do Not Hold Me Back is the name of the song. The album, My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me, and the band, of course, Werewolves, out of Australia. One of the very best extreme metal albums of the year so far as I'm concerned. And do not be surprised if you see it ranking pretty high up on my best of list, which will be posted as part of another 3-part special next year. I know we're some ways away, but, I do plan ahead on these things. Right now, my friends, if you think that Hunter Biden is a great role model for the youth, it's time for you to get to stepping, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
So, as always, the Odyssey begins on metalstorm.net, the best metal news website on the face of the earth. And the first track we're going to listen to is by the German deathcore band Necrosphere. It says here on September the 22nd, 2023, the Germans Necrosphere will be putting out their 5th studio album dubbed Imperium. Now they present a Chris Jacob directed official video for the new single Imperator. Let's hear what it's all about. We've had a couple of surprises when it comes to deathcore recently. There's been Carnifex, there's been Thy Art Is Murder, and I would add Necrosphere to the list as well. I think that groove right at the beginning, as the song kicks off, I think absolutely hits the right spot. I think the riff during the verse is killer. It's dark. It's got a bit of a atmosphere to it, and then you've got this really cool left field melody that takes you through the chorus. It's all held together by really tight, solid production. Performances are excellent. I think the vocalist in particular sounds really, really on top of his game. So, this is very good. I must be honest with you, I wasn't previously familiar with Necrosphere. I didn't know that they had 1 album out, let alone 5. But this may very well make it onto my list of things to watch out for when it gets released later in the year. So let's get back to it. About 20 seconds or so ago, the vocalist went into what very nearly sounded like a pig squeal, and I assume that some of the purists listening to this might have gone, "This fucking sucks," and they skipped ahead by 30 seconds. But I can forgive it. I think the song is pretty good. I think it earns a thumbs up, not necessarily a top notch, but I think it's good. Okay, let's move on. The next news headline is that Urfaust have called it quits, which came as a bit of a surprise. I saw a couple of people talking about this on the socials. It says here, after just putting out a new studio record titled Untergang, the Dutch duo Urfaust has decided to disband after 20 years of existence. Not much info regarding this matter has been unveiled. Something clearly happened there because they had just put out a new record. I barely actually listened to it. I gave it like a quick spin through over the weekend, and it sounded very, very cool. I was a big fan of Teufelsgeist, the previous record that they did. This seems to really have kind of come out of nowhere. But, 20 years is a good innings by all accounts. I'm sure we'll find out more at some point. Could very well be that this is just a publicity stunt as well. I don't think so, but you never know. It could be like when was it when Typo Negative put out Dead Again, or when they put out Life Is Killing Me? They posted that like a picture of Pete's tombstone on the Typo Negative website, and it was like free at last. Very much in keeping with their sense of humor, but obviously, sadly it had darker undertones given what happened later on. But I don't know. Maybe Urfaust have done it as a joke. I doubt it, but if you're a fan of the band, you can keep your fingers crossed that's the case. All right. Theocracy detail new long player. Theocracy is almost as bad a song title, or actually not bad, almost as inane a band name as Agriculture. But they have signed to Atomic Fire Records, who, for those of you that don't know, is Marcus Steiger of Nuclear Blast's new label, Atomic Fire, Nuclear Blast, get it? It says here, after the recent signing with Atomic Fire Records, Theocracy now unveiled details and first single in connection with their next full-length release. Due out October 13, 2023, it's going to be entitled Mosaic, recorded, produced, and mixed by Matt Smith at Theocracized Studios and Full Moon Studios in Athens, Georgia, mastered by Emily Lazar and Chris Allgood at The Lodge in New York. The album cover looks terrible. The name of the band sucks. So let's hope the music vindicates them. This is the sort of thing that you would hear played at one of those mega churches like the ones that they make fun of in The Righteous Gemstones. I mean, it really is atrocious. And as I'm listening to that, I just had a quick gander at Metal Archives. It seems that this may well be, if I'm interpreting this correctly, a Christian metal band, which suddenly got my gears spinning. As much as Nuclear Blast has a legacy of putting out, at least for the time, some truly diabolical things. They put out the first couple of Sinister records, which there was no doubting where their allegiances lay. And they put out, obviously, the first couple of Hypocrisy records. As a matter of fact, they put out Hypocrisy. They may even still have Hypocrisy signed. But either way, they put out, some true friends of Satan. But folks may forget they also put out the first couple of Mortification records. So Marcus and Nuclear Blast, and obviously now Marcus and Atomic Fire Records, they've always tried to cater to the Christians, and fair play to them. I think if you're a Christian and this is the sort of music you listen to, I can't help but think, it's going to make you depressed about your choice of religion. I personally think that stinks. If that's the kind of music that you like, I strongly suggest you dig up Nevermore. Or there's a band called Shatter Messiah, which for some reason I thought about straight away when I heard that. Their first 2 albums, I think the first one is called Never to Play the Servant. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I would check that out, but the rest maybe not so much. Okay, we went from one bad band name to another. The Flower Kings have announced their new album. I mean, I'm not even going to bother reading that article because I can only imagine it's going to be utterly atrocious. But next up, we've got Plague Rider, who have unleashed a new track called An Executive. So it says here, Transcending Obscurity Records are thrilled to unveil a brand new track of the UK death metal band Plague Rider entitled An Executive. It will appear on the band's upcoming album, which will go up for pre-order next week. Let's hear if this can be a suitable palate cleanser after Theocracy. I have to say, considering the quality control that Kunal over at Transcending Obscurity Records has exercised over some of the signings to his label, and I mean, he's got some really, really good bands signed to Transcending Obscurity. There's Ashen Horde. Obviously, we've had Trevor on the podcast before. There is Devenial Verdict. We had those guys on. There's Veil Burner. We had them on. I mean, that Veil Burner record is absolutely fantastic, and he's put out some top tier stuff. This is the furthest thing from top tier that I've heard since Theocracy. It is absolute fucking wank. It sounds like they're trying to channel bands like Car Bomb, Today's the Day. I don't hear very much death metal in there. I basically just hear a bunch of racket. This to me is like when you speak to a civilian about metal, death metal and black metal in particular, they'll tell you stuff like, the most ignorant of them will tell you, that's just that music where you can get a toddler to take some cutlery and smack it around on some pots and pans and scream over it. Sounds the same, innit? That's Plague Rider. If you play them Plague Rider, they'd go, yeah, case closed. I win the argument. Yeah, that's not good at all. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe Kunal feels like Plague Rider has an audience, but that audience I doubt very much is going to include any of the Legion. You guys tell me in the comments if you believe otherwise. But one thing I just want to circle back to very quickly. We were talking about agriculture. Something didn't quite sit right with me about that article. And I went back and I had a gander at their social media profile. I had a gander at their number of monthly listens on Spotify. What I couldn't wrap my head around was how a band who I had barely heard of before, as a matter of fact, not barely, never heard of before, who I had never seen mentioned on social media, there was no buzz whatsoever, and I feel like I keep my hand fairly close to the pulse of these things, all of a sudden outsold a host of other black metal bands that make vastly superior music, and again, that's maybe a question of personal taste, but also have significantly higher following on social media, much greater presence in the scene, much higher profiles. And so if you go and you have a gander at their Facebook profile, I think they have something like 246 followers, which is you can You can explain that by saying, well, they've got a very sort of trite band name, and actually typing in agriculture on Facebook is just going to get you a bunch of farming pages. But if you go onto their Instagram, I think it's even more revealing, because if you take a look at the number of likes that they've had per post that they've put up, so they've got about 4,500 posts, give or take. The number of likes they get per post is about 200, 300, and then all of a sudden, around the middle of April, which I assume was in advance of the record being released, it shoots up to 1,900, and then there's some that's 2,500, 3,000. However, even the ones that are significantly over 2,000 or 3,000 likes only have 13 or 14 comments. Which, from my own experience, and I'm no social media master. Again, thank you very much if you are following me on the socials. But I'm no master of social media. I certainly don't consider myself an influencer, but I certainly get a higher degree of engagement from 500 likes than these guys get from 3,000. So immediately the wheels in my head start turning. Like, are these guys paying for likes? And if they're paying for likes, are they paying for listens on Spotify? Because I imagine that most certainly wouldn't be beneath them. And if they're paying for listens on Spotify, would it be or would it be outside the realms of possibility to suggest that perhaps at some point we're going to see a deluge of agriculture CDs put up for sale on eBay? So I'm not saying that, a rich dad went out and bought a bunch of their music. I think you need to do around about 1,000 sales to hit the position that they did, which was also an interesting comment on the state of the music industry right now, or the state of buying physical copies of music. But either way, but yeah, I'm not saying that they did that. I'm just saying don't be surprised if something like that comes out, because, like I said, it doesn't make any sense to me that a band whose talent as songwriters I class right alongside the likes of Plague Rider would all of a sudden be one of the best-selling black metal bands out of nowhere. So, again, you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong on that, but just judging by the response from all of you when I spoke about that complete drivel last week, I suspect that you guys are with me on that front. They completely and utterly suck. Okay, what have we got next? Cannibal Corpse, Summoned for Sacrifice track unveiled. I said when we first spoke about this album and we went through the song titles, this to me was the standout song title. There's always, like with every Cannibal Corpse album, there's always a couple of standout song titles. 5 Nails Through the Neck is one that I remember, particularly loving when that record came out. And Summoned for Sacrifice just sounds absolutely badass. It says here, Summoned for Sacrifice, the newest single from Cannibal Corpse's oncoming full-length assault, Chaos Horrific, has surfaced online. David Brodsky handled the creation of the accompanying music video. Chaos Horrific drops on September the 22nd on Metal Blade Records. Already much excitement about this album, rightfully so in my opinion. So let's hear what Summoned for Sacrifice sounds like.
Chosen by the elders to kill. One chosen by the elders to die. Summoned for sacrifice. Taken to a dungeon where others have perished before him. Enveloped in fear and silence. Arms and legs are shackled. Awaking in the dark and cold, the time has now
I will lift the lid off the inner workings of the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse for just a second, because I think it's relevant in this instance. So a couple of days ago when this track was released, it was shared on the Horsemen Facebook Messenger group that we've got. And, you know, comments started coming in thick and fast. You know, we had folks saying it's great, it sounds amazing, can't wait for the album. And Sensei Mike Hill simply commented one word, and I think it sums up my thoughts on this song exactly. All he said was, Rutan. So, God bless Eric Rutan. That's all I'm going to say. I think it was the smartest decision that this band ever made to bring him into the fold. I think he has been or provided an injection of creativity into Cannibal Corpse that, I mean, really has just resurrected them completely. There's no doubting that A Skeletal Domain, Red Before Black, even Torture, you know, those records had their moments, but it was all starting to sound, in my opinion, quite workmanlike. Cannibal Corpse kind of go through these waves, I feel, in their career. So they reached the peak, and many will disagree with me on this, so let me just preface it by saying this is my opinion, but they reached one of their first peaks with The Bleeding. You know, that was an album that just came out of nowhere. It was so different to what they had done before, but kind of retained the character of every single the best aspects of their previous albums, while really injecting some solid songwriting fundamentals into it. And it was an album that was very memorable. I think a lot of people were hoping to hear something similar when Vile came out, even though Chris Barnes had left, but Vile wasn't that. So there was a bit of a dip after The Bleeding. Then, you know, they kind of gradually start to build back up. Gallery of Suicide, not an album I enjoy quite as much, although I think there are some good songs on there. But, you know, again, don't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Bloodthirst. I enjoyed Gore Obsessed a little bit more. And then The Wretched Spawn came out, and there are some fucking phenomenal songs on that album. In my opinion, I would actually say it's probably my favorite Cannibal Corpse album up to present day. The song The Wretched Spawn is incredible. Nothing Left to Mutilate is fucking genius. Decency Defied, absolutely awesome. Still a mainstay of their set as far as I know. So a phenomenal record. They kind of kept the same, or I think Kill was a bit of a dip, but they pulled the stick back a little bit again with Evisceration Plague. I thought Evisceration Plague was an excellent record. And then Torture and A Skeletal Domain and Red Before Black, it starts to kind of feel a little bit like we've seen everything that they've got to show us. So then Violence Unimagined came out in 2021, first album that they've done with Eric Rutan, and, you know, immediately, you know, I, the jaded Cannibal Corpse fan, you know, had to sit up and go, this is pretty good. You know, this is I'm hearing Cannibal Corpse, but I'm hearing Cannibal Corpse with a twist, you know, different seasoning on in the stew. And I have to tell you, what I've heard so far from Chaos Horrific really fills me with a whole heap of optimism, because I think this album is going to be fucking fantastic. The first two songs they've released have been just top drawer, some of the best Cannibal Corpse I've heard in a decade at least. And maybe this song is the peak of that. Fantastic stuff. So let's go back to it.
One comes from the foot above the echo as the blood begins to spray. The second one acts solid and the rest, the third one does the same. The fourth one starts from the underfoot, the fifth one is awake. The sixth one jumps on one of his own, one lunch of him remains. Those two dead when liquid fall. In a few minutes it will be over. With poison and they'll take their turn to live in pieces of his body. The medusa of the twin brings the horn until he breathes no fucking more. Summon for sacrifice.
I mean, right there as well, that you can hear that was written for the live setting. You can imagine in your mind the degree to which there will be complete and utter carnage on that pit floor when they do that part of that song, which they inevitably they will do when they go on tour now. Fantastic, top notch. Absolutely top notch in my opinion. And I think if anybody had counted Cannibal Corpse down, you most definitely owe it to yourself to go back and check them out again, because that is a phenomenal song. Okay, so Krieg have got a yeah, I basically said it the same way. Krieg is how you would say that exact word in Afrikaans, which is my second language, for those of you guys that don't know. But anyway, Ruiner is the new full-length album from the cult US black metal force Krieg, and it's completed and ready to see the light on October the 13th, 2023, via the almost always excellent Profound Law Records. The band's first record since 2014's Transient was recorded by Jeff Barrow and A. Poole, mixed by A. Poole, mastered by Dan Lowndes, and features artwork by Rob Scheider. A lot of excitement about this band, and particularly about the fact that they've come back after 10 years or however long it's been. So let's hear what the new song sounds like. Solitarily, A Future Renounced is the name of the track, and let's give it a spin. Musically, I think this is good. I think the first, minute 21 seconds, I can get down. I can jive with the music. Tell you what, I can't jive with is those vocals. That's not up to par. I think maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that sort of thing would have been acceptable because maybe there were less bands, but nowadays with the standard of performance in so many black metal bands being so high, and I think vocal performance in particular really kind of having come into its own over the last 10-15 years, just screaming like that with no apparent purpose. It might cut it for some, it doesn't cut it for me. Vocals need to have a purpose, and they need to have rhythm, and they need to function like an additional instrument. They in this song, to me, they're just a nuisance. There's nothing really to them. I mean, I don't want to take away from the Krieg vocalist. I don't know the dude either way. It might be that elsewhere on the album his voice is incredible. But what he's doing there, I don't necessarily think requires the degree of talent that it takes to do the type of vocals that someone like Mortus would do, Attila, Gall, the elite of the elite black metal vocalists. And even if we go to bands like Abduction, this week's guest, AV, he does different stuff with his voice. If you go back and listen to the record that came out right before Black Blood, All Pain as Penance, there's a song called, I think it's Screaming at the Gates of Baalbek, something like that. There's this moment in the middle of the song where he's like got this really like commanding sort of growl, and he says like to begin again. It's just genius. It's little touches like that for me personally always elevate a song. And these vocals are doing nothing to elevate the song. They are distracting from what is otherwise very competent and enjoyably performed black metal. Let's get back to it. It could get better, but so far I'm pretty underwhelmed. I'm afraid I know there are going to be some of you that very strongly disagree with me, but that is a 5 out of 10 effort in my opinion. I don't think that that quite cuts the mustard. For a band with their sort of reputation to release a song like that in 2023, the genre has just moved on. It's moved on too far for something like that to be considered tier 1, in my opinion. Okay, Carnation have debuted their new single, Replicant. Carnation have revealed a Guillermo Henriquez-directed official video for Replicant, the third advanced single of their next full-length installment, Cursed Mortality, which is out on November the 3rd. I have liked the first 2 singles that they released, very much, as a matter of fact. So I have high hopes for Replicant. Let's give it a listen. Just before we go back to the heavy stuff, I mean no offense when I say this, but whoever was producing this should have had the guts and the decency to tell that vocalist that clean singing is not quite for you, not just yet. We talk a lot about, or we have spoken a lot about clean singing on this podcast, and how much work it takes to to really nail the art of singing clean, like bearing your voice to the world. I spoke to Aaron Stainthorpe of My Dying Bride. We spoke about how he had to pull his shirt over his head and kind of turn his back on everybody because it was so difficult to kind of get to that place where you could sing in an authentic fashion. But these guys have naturally strong voices, and I think at least from my understanding, many of them have taken a lot of lessons to improve that, and they've really worked on and mastered their craft over the years. The vocalist for Carnation has got a hell of a death metal growl. There's no doubt about that. He sounds beastly, and I love it. I think he's really, really capable as a death metal vocalist. But that opening of that song, had it been fronted by a different singer, had they gotten a guest vocalist to come in and do it, it could have been something extraordinary. But the fact that he did it ruins it completely, because I'm afraid at this stage he may have ambitions to be a great clean singer, but his ambitions does not necessarily match his capability. That's my take on that so far. But it certainly sounded like the gear shift that we just paused on, takes things into a somewhat more enjoyable direction. So we'll get back to it. That's crazy. I mean, literally in the space of 20 seconds, you are listening to two extremes of of capability. I mean, it's two extremes of music too, but there's two extremes of capability at play there. One is extremely good at doing death metal vocals. He's almost kind of approaching Corpse Grinder levels of intensity. And then a clean voice that is completely lacking in presence, does not enhance the music that's backing it whatsoever. Just sounds awkward. It sounds awkward and out of place. So yeah, I mean, I don't know whether this was a self-produced effort. I mean, the production itself doesn't sound bad, but whoever you had in the studio, I think should have at least had a conversation to say, I'm not sure if this is working, or maybe let's try it with a second vocalist backing you up. Maybe let's go get some lessons. There's an awful lot. I mean, it's going to sound like I'm being hateful here. I'm not being intentionally hateful. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I could do as well. I wish I could skateboard like Elliot Sloan, but I can't. I wish I could, compete in MMA like George St. Pierre, but I can't. And I very much wish that I could sing like Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age, but I can't. So I think sometimes you have to have a come to Jesus moment with yourself, as they say, and you need to realize and understand your limitations. Okay, let's do two more songs, and then we're going to head over to the Democrat's Guide to Rock Music. The first song I want to talk about is the new Shining track. Now, speaking of a guy that does have an incredible clean singing voice, as well as a formidable black metal presence, Niklas of Shining almost certainly meets that criteria. The new track is entitled Avsundare Okond, and I'm sure I have butchered the pronunciation of it completely, but so be it. The second single from the Shining's upcoming self-titled record, they say here, has premiered online in the form of an official lyric video. The new long player from the Swedish black metal unit will land in stores on September the 15th. I loved the first one. I thought the music video was extraordinarily disturbing. So let's hear what happens on track number 2. Okay, so it says here, Niklas Kofforth comments on our second single. It could be best described as what Halmstad or Varg Uten Flock would have sounded like if it were recorded with the current lineup. It's the opening track of our new album and classic Shining at its absolute darkest. Ingo Sprawl has managed to do what I thought was impossible, blah, blah. He just talks about the lyric video, which, you can go and watch for yourself if you're not already watching this on YouTube. Song-wise, I would say it's Shining. No other way to describe it. They have a very unique style. I think it really ticks all the boxes, in my opinion. I think it sounds sensational. I'm going to jump about 5 minutes into the song. It's pretty lengthy, so it is 8 minutes 27 to be exact. We're going to jump into about 5 minutes 28 just to hear where the song heads to. I'm curious. This is the first time I'm listening to it. Yeah, let's get back to it. So we've got blasting, we've got, real intense dark atmosphere, we've got Celtic Frost style grooving. I mean, there's really nothing here that The Shining isn't doing and doing exceptionally well. So I would say expect to see that album ranked very, very highly on more than a few best of 2023 lists. If I had to make a bold prediction. All right, one more. Sulphur Aeon have detailed their new album and are streaming the first track from the record right now. Or actually, the first single from the record, I should say. Lovecraftian death metalers Sulphur Aeon have announced the release of their new full-length 7 Crowns and 7 Seals. It is coming out on October the 13th through Van Records. The album was was mastered by V. Santura at Woodshed Studio, and the cover art was made by Paolo Gerardi. You can listen to the new song Arcane Cambrian Sorcery right now below. I have been very excited about this. Huge amount of buzz about this album in my circles, so let's hear what it sounds like.
As the planetary void inhales the sea of the stars, cosmic calculation reads the dawn of light. Before there was life, and the moon was the eye. Ancient hostility bred for galaxies afar. Ancient hostile deities. Arcane Cambrian sorcery. Millennia bred ferocity. Arcane Cambrian sorcery.
Fantastic. You've got heavy, you've got groove, you've got doom, you've got that crazy Greg McIntosh inspired melody. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I would very highly recommend, if you haven't done so yet, if you're not familiar with Sulphur Aeon, then go check out their earlier stuff. They've got 3 albums out prior to this one. Swallowed by the Ocean's Tide, that came out in 2013. Gateway to the Antisphere, which came out in 2015. And then they put out The Scythe of Cosmic Chaos in 2018. So it's been a hot minute since they've put out an album, but it certainly sounds like it was worth the wait. That is a absolute, definite, unequivocal top-notch, in my opinion. Okay, let's head over to Blabbermouth and check out the latest goings-on the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music. First up, we see that Gojira's Joseph Duplantier says his energy level has increased by 10 or 100 after becoming a vegan. Quite a wide margin there, I would say. But who am I to question? I mean, one thing I would definitely say, for all the jokes and whatnot that I make about veganism, I don't begrudge anybody eating what they want to eat. Just don't get up in my business about me wanting to eat beef. Me wanting to eat chicken or lamb. I love meat. I intend to never stop eating meat, and that's really all there is to it. But I mean, if you feel great being a vegan, and if you feel healthy, good for you. It says here, former Vital Remains vocalist Brian Werner joins newly reactivated Terrorizer. That's exciting news. You guys would have seen over the weekend Pete Commando Sandoval, who is increasingly starting to look a little bit like a member of Brujeria. He announced that he and David Vincent were resurrecting Terrorizer. They were going to do, I believe they're going to be doing a World Downfall playthrough at like some show at some point in the not too distant future. And getting the vocalist from Vital Remains to join is fucking cool as well, I think. So looking forward to hearing what any new music that unit might create will end up sounding like. But yeah, I'm also wondering whether or not Pete Sandoval takes Jesus as seriously as he did previously, because he was pretty heavily into that shit for a while. I don't believe that David Vincent has had a change of heart as far as his relationship with the Lord is concerned, unless, of course, you're talking about the Horned Lord. So, but they certainly seem to be very close. Either way, one thing I'm glad to see is that Pete Sandoval certainly seems to be in way better health than he has been for a while. I joked last week and said it had been a while since we'd seen anything about Ted Nugent on Blabbermouth, but lo and behold, Borry must have heard me, because here we read, Ted Nugent on Tom Morello, anyone that would wear a Che Guevara shirt has lost their mind. The article here reads, he responded, as transcribed by blabbermouth.net, well, Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine is a dear friend of mine, but when you really examine his pragmatic priorities, he's a hard worker. So am I. He loves his family and protects and provides for his family. So do I. He puts his heart and soul into his craft. So do I. But anybody, with all due respect, anybody that would wear a Che Guevara shirt has lost their mind, Ted added, referencing the Argentine Marxist revolutionary physician, author, guerrilla leader, diplomat, and military theorist. Che Guevara would have killed Carlos Santana and Tom Morello first, so we have to be smart and be cognizant of real historical truisms, facts, and evidence. Of course, you can hear the snide tone with which the article is written. They list a series of plaudits that Che Guevara supposedly had, including the fact that he was a physician, which, by the way, has never been proved. There is no proof that exists about him ever graduating from medical school, but either way. I have to say, it's not often, but I find myself in complete agreement with the Nuge on this one. It is a matter of record that Che Guevara hated black people. He was intensely homophobic to such a degree, and you can read this up, or you can read up on this if you don't believe me, but he was so homophobic that when he and his best mate, Fidel Castro, created the first of many concentration camps in Cuba, or happy camps, as I'm sure they would they would like to have called them, they actually co-opted the Nazi slogan from Auschwitz, work will set you free, to work will make you men. Guevara, as I mentioned, lied about being a doctor. There's no evidence about him having any sort of graduation from medical school. He lied about knowing how to manage an economy, and the disaster that he wrought upon Cuba almost certainly demonstrates that. And historians tie him directly or indirectly to over 200 murders. And that point was made by the bastion of far-right journalism known as the Huffington Post. So just in case anybody's sitting here saying, oh, you just get all your source from Fox News, don't you? Guevara was a hero. No. Huffington Post ran an article in 2017. It was entitled, Are You Gay? Che Guevara Would Have Sent You to a Concentration Camp. I've said this before, I will reiterate it. I think someone who wears a Che Guevara t-shirt or openly flies a hammer and sickle flag, in my opinion, should be treated with the exact same degree of social disdain as somebody who openly supports Hitler or the Nazis. There's no difference. It's the same murderous mindset. It's just at a different extreme of the political spectrum. Now, that doesn't happen in our day and age, and you can't help but wonder why. Anyway, moving on. The next article grabbing my attention, Corey Taylor recently had a thought-provoking conversation with NME about conspiracy theories and facts. Let's listen to what he had to say.
God, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I miss facts. I miss when we lived in a world where facts weren't met with such disdain because they fly in the face of something that you believe. Belief is not a fact. And not only that, but the fact that people who may or may not be as intellectually inclined as other people have decided to kind of conflate these grandiose notions of conspiracy theories and absolutely fucking batshit fucking ideas, just so they can make themselves feel special and feel like they're onto something. These intellectuals, they don't know anything. I've got all the answers. The fact that they do that just to make themselves feel special, and that is attractive to other people like that, and that now.
So I agree with him that belief is not fact. He's kind of onto the truth there, and then, or he's kind of onto a valid point there, and then, much of it gets buried under the egotistical fluff for which he is known. What I would ask that great intellectual Corey Taylor is, where is he getting his facts from? And what irrefutable evidence does he have that his facts are 100% truthful? Because from my perspective, the big problem with the term conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist is that it has become a very convenient catch-all that is used to describe anything or anyone that strays from the political doctrine or the narrative that the media is trying to prop up, at any given time. And those very same people, the media, the politicians, they complain incessantly about the lack of trust in public institutions, the lack of trust in legacy journalism. Again, those bastions of journalistic integrity like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian. But surely fostering trust needs to begin with being truthful. And if you are caught out not being truthful or making a mistake, putting your hands up, being accountable and saying, we fucked up, we're sorry. That has not happened, and in the past 5 years, people like you and I have been on the receiving end of what I believe to be weapons-grade gaslighting, and here are just 3 examples. 2 weeks to stop the spread. We were told that at the very beginning of the lockdown. After the lockdown had gone on for months, we saw our politicians having parties in their back gardens, dining at high-end restaurants, visiting their personal stylists, even when those same personal stylists would have been fined or threatened with jail time if they dared to serve a member of the public. The second one, the infection stops with you. We heard that from Rachel Maddow, from Joe Biden, from Anthony Fauci, from Kamala Harris, I believe, and I speak under correction on this, we even heard it from Donald Trump. He certainly pushed the vaccine. And then Pfizer themselves later admitted that, hey, we never even bothered to test for that. We didn't know whether or not the infection stops with you if you've been vaccinated. And even if you want to discount vaccine injury, of which, again, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that the vaccine was in fact not safe, or certainly not 100% safe, as everybody was telling us, the very idea that it stopped infection altogether was almost certainly garbage, and that has been proven. And then the next one, Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian misinformation. There were 50 members of the intelligence community who swore that something that they knew to be untrue was the absolute truth. It was misinformation. Don't believe it. I think CNN even said that if you had, or if you'd seen anything about the Hunter Biden laptop, it was illegal, and that you needed to leave it with them because they were the only ones licensed to be able to interpret it. When I talk about these things, this isn't a left or right thing, because there are plenty of people, including Jimmy Dore, Bill Maher, folks on the left, that have seen through this garbage, the same as, various other folks on the other side of the aisle. This is just about saying that if all of these 3 examples that I've just mentioned now were labeled conspiracy theories just a few years, if not a few months ago, if Corey Taylor misses facts, where does he stand on those examples that I just listed? Is it wrong for people to have entertained the notions that those things could be real? And is it wrong for them to question the stuff that they're seeing in the news media when this is the sort of garbage we've been fed over and over again? The saying goes, and I think this is a very beautiful way to summarize this. I'm not going to rant on it for too long. But I think it was Ronald Reagan that said it. Like, if you want people to trust in government should at least read the score to you once in a while. And I think it's been a very, very long time since the government has done that. And I think that Corey Taylor, Tom Morello, or other bubblegum rebels of their ilk who, try and talk down to us and try and act or try and say that somebody that questions what they're seeing in the news media is the same as somebody who thinks that frogs turn you gay. Or that, the world is run by lizard people, I think is pathetic. And I think it's sad, and I think even more hysterical are the fans, the mind-melted simpletons who hang on to every word these people say. Okay, let's close off on a lighter note. So over on We Are the Pit, we've got another list, and last week we did one about most underrated albums from the 80s. This new list, the 10 most underrated metal albums of the 2000s. So let's have a quick skim through theirs. At number 1, they've got King Diamond, Give Me Your Soul Please, which I must confess I did not enjoy. I'm a big fan of King Diamond, but I always thought that record was a bit pants. Pantera, Reinventing the Steel. You all know I'm a huge fan of Pantera. There were a couple of decent songs on that album, but it's a very patchy, uneven record as far as I'm concerned, and definitely not, I think, the album that should have been their swan song. Celtic Frost, Monotheist, a album that I never actually thought was underrated, because if memory serves me correctly, I think Terrorizer had this as their album of the year that it came out. I know I certainly loved it. I reviewed it for Chronicles of Chaos. I said it was fantastic. It was brilliant, and I don't think that people overlooked it either. But anyway, they've got it in there. It is subjective again. It's a bit like last week when we were talking about the 80s albums. There's a degree of subject or objectivity here that you need to kind of bear in mind. Dio, Magica, not really an album I am particularly familiar with. Iron Age, The Sleeping Eye, another album I'm not usually familiar with. Gorguts, From Wisdom to Hate, understand including that record because I don't personally think they've ever done anything that's not good. Outlaw Order, Dragging Down the Enforcer, that of course featured members of Down and I Hate God. Not an album I really liked. I remember being very excited about it because of the fact that it featured Jimmy Bowers, but it just wasn't really something that I thought was particularly good. And then they've also got Insect Warfare, World Extermination, which is absolutely sensational as far as like grindcore is concerned. One of the very best grindcore records ever released. They've also got Vader, Litany, which I thought was poor, especially in comparison to the records that had come previous to that. And then Morbid Angel, Gateways to Annihilation. Lots of folks I know that really like that album, including several members of the Horsemen. So, you guys know my thoughts on that. I was a big fan of Formulas Fatal to the Flesh. Gateways to Annihilation, I think, has grown old in a not necessarily flattering way. But let me give you 10 of my selections. And again, I'm conscious of time, so we'll move through this reasonably quickly. First of all, Nevermore, Enemies of Reality. I remember Worrell absolutely hating the production of the original version. And he told me so when I interviewed him for This Godless Endeavor. He basically said his exact words were, the only way you would have liked the sound on Enemies of Reality was if you thought that the snare sound on Saint Anger was cutting edge. And I kind of had to sort of go, okay. Being young and, slightly intimidated by meeting a dude who I held in such high regard. But I think Enemies of Reality is a phenomenal record. It's, Nevermore didn't make a bad album, and Enemies of Reality is no different. Chimera by Mayhem. I remember a ton of negative or certainly indifferent reviews of that album when it first came out, but it's grown into a favorite of many folks, including my man Evan Hopper of Quell. WW by Gehenna, a much more primitive and cult release than their earlier stuff. It's certainly nothing like the first Spell or anything like that, or Malice, but it has a real edginess to it, which I fucking love. There's like a roughness to that record that I actually think, based on where black metal ended up going, was slightly ahead of its time. Symbolic by Paradise Lost. I've spoken about that album and how much I love it many, many times. You can listen in more detail to how much I loved it if you go back to the episode that Carl Hikara and I did for Soul Knox, where we went through the Paradise Lost discography. But I thought that album was grossly overlooked, and I think it's fantastic. Burnt by the Sun, The Perfect is the Enemy of the Good. This might be one that falls under the objective category, like was it or was it not underrated? but I thought it was fucking genius. Like, the reason I included it was because it came out around the time of a number of other big relapse bands putting out records. There's bands like Pig Destroyer, Mastodon, the Dillinger Escape Plan when they were still signed to Relapse. And I think that Burnt by the Sun kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, which is a shame because, again, they're a band that have never put out a bad record. If you like testosterone-addled hardcore with grindcore sensibilities, you owe it to yourself to go back and rediscover the Burnt by the Sun discography. Alchemist, Austral Alien, another Relapse Records band that, again, I feel got lost in the shuffle. I think Austral Alien and Crypsis, this album that came after that, fantastic. And I think one of the things that I've been most proud of on this podcast was being able to do a final interview with Adam Agius, and at the very least, regardless of what happens with Alchemist in the future, it's a nice way to kind of bookend and say goodbye. Ocassus by the Amenta, their first album, not really cited quite as much nowadays because people, are stuck on the newer stuff. It's also been a hot minute since they released that record, but it is phenomenal and it holds up to this day. A Greater Darkness by Red Harvest, which, every Red Harvest album was fantastic, but A Greater Darkness was their final record, and it is perfect in every way. It is truly the sound of impending nuclear Armageddon, and it is terrifying to hear and exhilarating all at the same time. Phenomenal. Sonic Rain, Raw, Dark, Pure, a band who at the time made exactly the kind of black metal I would have wanted to hear from Satyricon after Rebel Extravaganza. And then the final one, and this one is going to be controversial, but I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret if you've stuck around until the very end of the podcast. Cryptopsy, The Unspoken King. I fucking love that record. I know most people absolutely hated. The average review, I think, on Metal Archive is 31%. I was a Cryptopsy fan going all the way back to None So Vile and Blasphemy Made Flesh, and I was fully on board when I heard the clean singing. I was like, this is something very different. But actually, you know what? It's pretty fucking interesting because I like the vocalist. I think that the cool stuff about Cryptopsy is still present, but they're doing something completely different. And I was just down for it. Maybe it just hit me on the right time at the right, the right time of day. But I love the album. Now, here's the secret that I'm going to let you in on. Next week, my guest is Matt McGeachie of Cryptopsy, and we're talking about The Unspoken King, as well as the new record and a bunch of other stuff. So you do not want to miss that. And on that note, my friends, I am wrapping up the news rant for this week. And so concludes another episode of Into the Necrosphere. I will be back next week. Guest to be announced. I've got a couple in the pipeline, but I've also got a couple that I'm about to record, and I just need to figure out how I am going to pace them as we make our way to episode 200. Very excited about that. Thank you very much if you have listened all the way until the very end of the show. Thank you very much for everybody's support. I see all of the love every single week on social media, and guys, I feel like the viewership and the listenership for this podcast just keeps growing and growing, and it is thanks to you, the Legion, for making that happen. Whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy. I'm playing us out with a track off of the new Akercocke live album. The album is called Decades of Devil Worship. And you're about to hear a live version of the Ceremony of Nine Angles. I will see you bad motherfuckers again next Tuesday.